Conklin and Company with 13 ABC Action News anchor Lee Conklin. First with what's happening behind the headlines. And Take 3, our panel of political analysts.
Morning, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Conklin and Company. Today on the program, the two big stories that really dominated most of the headlines this past week. The Trayvon Martin death investigation down in Florida and the future of health care reform as the U.S. Supreme Court hears oral arguments over the constitutionality of the Affordable Health Care Act, or many call Obamacare. But first, a wide-ranging interview with our governor of Ohio. Now coming up on a year and a half into his term, an animated John Kasich sat down with me for a one-on-one interview this past week. Governor Kasich, thanks very much for taking time out. We appreciate it. Let's get right to what is the crux of what you appear to be pushing quite hard right now, and it is would be a tax cut for Ohioans, but a tax increase for oil companies, oil and gas companies, in terms of shale drilling or fracking. Tell us how important, how big you think this industry can be for Ohio.
Well, we think it can be pretty significant because we have in Ohio, we have natural gas, dry gas, which is important, but we also have what's called liquids and, of course, oil. And so somebody that comes into Ohio, if this turns out to be true and it looks pretty good, then they get a twofer. They can get the gas, but they can also get the much more valuable liquids or petroleum. And they already have a severance tax. It's been in place for many years, and I would like to upgrade it because, look, these big companies are going to come in, they're going to withdraw value from the state, and rather than taking everything they withdraw and hightailing it to Texas or Oklahoma or some other place, I think Ohioans ought to benefit, particularly families and, of course, small business. So anything we can do to bring this income tax down is a positive thing. Right now on liquids, the companies pay $0, and on oil they pay 20 cents on like a tax on a $110 barrel of oil. It doesn't make any sense. And so the ability to start to lower that income tax is really positive for the state. And Lee, the thing you have to understand is we have come out of basically the throes of death here in this state. We are now, after having lost 400,000 jobs in the last 4 years, we are now the #1 job creator in the Midwest, and we're the #5 job creator in America. We have money in our rainy day fund. Our credit has been improved. So every little thing that we can do, or every big thing we can do to try to make this a more positive environment for job creation is we have to push.
Has that improvement been in part because of Governor Kasich, because of President Obama, because of everything coming together, the auto industry coming back? I mean, you taught the improvement here, the job creation. Does everyone get the credit?
I mean, I don't care if a little green man gets the credit. I mean, we're probably up, we know we're up about 83,000 jobs in the last year, probably closer to 100,000 since the November election. I think we start getting in, look, Ronald Reagan used to have a little plate on his desk, and it said, if you don't worry about who gets credit, it's amazing what can get done. My mission is to create jobs. I don't care who I get help from. I'm not getting into that. In fact, I saw the president the other day. I was either talking to him or when I was with him, and said, they're all trying to divide us and get us to fight with one. I'm not interested in that, because when people go to work, and it's not just auto's good, okay, but that's not the bulk of these jobs. These jobs are coming across the board. They're coming in medicine, they're coming in energy, they're coming in advanced manufacturing, they're coming in agriculture, they're coming across the board, and that's what we want in Ohio. We don't want to live and die on the basis of one industry. We did that before, Lee, and we got crushed by it. So it's pretty diverse. Now, what have we been able to do in Ohio? Create an environment where CEOs, and you go talk to them, where CEOs are now confident that we're not going to turn around and do something that's going to disrupt what provides a good business platform and job creation.
But does an increase on tax for oil companies, does that go against what you're talking about?
Well,
is there a juxtaposition there?
Well, really the question is, should they pay $0 on these valuable liquids? Should they pay 20 cents on a $110 barrel of oil? Our proposal keeps Ohio below even the median in terms of what they should pay. And they're so hungry to get here. And since this discussion has really intensified, we've seen now about $2 billion in investments from these companies. They can't wait to get to Ohio and pull this stuff out of the ground. And as they do, they ought to pay for some of it, and every Ohioan ought to benefit, because if we don't do this, they take all this value out of our state to a faraway place where, for example, in Texas, they have no income tax. They transfer their tax burden onto us and lower their taxes. I mean, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
You said you expected some friction on this, some pushback from your Republican colleagues. And Senate President Niehaus has said, well, we're willing to talk now.
Yeah.
So you say when we hit peak production, taxpayers could see $500 million in tax cuts every year. When do you anticipate something like peak production?
That's like trying to predict the Mud Hens record this year. It's too hard to say. But one company told folks in our administration they expected to take $1 trillion out of the state. These are their numbers, okay? But in the $1 trillion that the energy company's talking about might be hyperbole, but that'd be $40 billion in tax cuts, which would really help us. You can't get into predicting because they've got to drill the wells, they've got to find what's there, it's a technology. But if they find it and if they're successful, then they should allow every Ohioan to benefit. And if they don't find the stuff, guess what? They won't pay.
How confident are you that the shale industry is here to stay and here to grow and be an incredible success story for Ohio?
Lee, there's not enough wells drilled yet to make a full assessment of this. They've probably drilled, I don't know, 25 wells, and they need a lot more to understand, first of all, the size of this, and also what is actually in the ground. But here's the other issue: can they get it out of the ground? Because if it won't flow out, then it's kind of stuck there till they develop the technology to get it out. How long do I think this could last? The companies tell me they want to be here for multiple generations. So we need to make sure we have good environmental laws, because we can't be in a position of have them damaging the groundwaters or high pressure pipeline explosions. We are also developing those rules so that the public can be confident that we can both have a good environmental protection system at the same time we're creating jobs.
About a year and a quarter in now, year and a half in to your term here. How's it going?
Well, look, the numbers speak for themselves. My mission was really to create jobs. I see those as a moral issue, because when jobs are created, families are stronger and kids get out of poverty. We've seen our unemployment drop from, basically 10% now down to 7.6, still too high, still too many kids in poverty, too many people without work. But when we go from an $8 billion hole to a balance, from 89 cents in a rainy day fund to $250 million, from being on the verge of having the credit agencies downgrade us to where they've now improved us to where we are now stable with all the agencies, when we create, somewhere in the vicinity of 100,000 jobs, you tell me how we should feel. We feel like we're making progress.
Ohio Governor John Kasich, and when we come back, the governor on education, casinos, the turnpike, and his demeanor. We're back in just a minute.